Nothing in this podcast or on our website should be construed as medical advice. Consult your healthcare provider for your individual nutritional and medical needs. The information presented is based on our research and is strictly that of the author and not necessarily those of any professional group or other individual.
Hi, I'm Sue Becker from Bread Beckers. Welcome to Sue's Healthy Minutes. I'm so excited you've joined me today, and I hope this episode encourages you and allows you to find the answers you have been praying for the health of you and your family. Today on Sue's Healthy Minutes, it's time for another It's the Bread story. And my guest today, Marie Echelmeyer, has quite a story. Marie is the friend that shared her bread with Anna Cooley, who shared her amazing story on Sue's Healthy Minutes in episode 133. If you haven't listened to Anna's story, I encourage you to. It will certainly brighten your day to hear of the miracles God used in her life. When I asked Marie to come on Sue's Healthy Minute, she explained that Anna's story was a tough act to follow. But I must say, what little I've heard of Marie's story is just as powerful as Anna's. I actually read some of her story on the same Facebook post where I read Anna's. It was a reply to a post asking people to share what health benefits they had seen since starting on their freshly milled bread journey. Marie's reply was nothing short of amazing, and it generated so much interest with so many questions and comments that I knew I had to hear more. So I actually reached out to her as soon as I read it. So I am happy today to have as my guest, Marie Echelmeyer. Marie, welcome to Sue's Healthy Minutes podcast. Why don't you begin by telling just a little bit about yourself and where you're from?
Sure. And first, I want to say you have changed my life greatly. So I am 57. I'm a widow. I'm a hairstylist. And about 5 years ago, I was diagnosed diabetic. Just had a random blood test one day, and my doctor called me first thing the next morning and said, "Oh my gosh, you need to get in the office today, or else you're going to die." I guess my A1C was 14, which I don't even know what that meant at that time.
That's pretty high.
So I go in and I immediately get put on crazy amounts of metformin and blood pressure meds and so many pills.
Yeah.
And so I started and I didn't get any good diabetic information from her. All she said was no more bread, no bananas. And I was like, okay, so I guess I'll start eating keto. And I started eating mainly meat and vegetables, but that wasn't really doing it for my A1C, which to my amazement, I don't know why, but whatever. So 5 years, I'm on this medication track, vacillating between stern talks from my doctor and trying to eat healthy and not really progressing.
Yeah.
I live 45 minutes away from my salon, so I have a good drive every day, twice a day, actually. And I'm in the habit of putting on a podcast. Well, one day, your podcast, Only Real Bread, popped up. And I was like, okay, click on that. I didn't know what I was getting into, but I settled in for, a 45-minute drive podcast. Well, that video, it took me a week to get through.
Yeah.
From the salon. And then I did it again. And at the end of that video, I was absolutely convinced that as a diabetic, I could have bread again. And so I sent that video to two of my girlfriends, Anna and Kelly, and we all three set about finding meals. Well, here's the backup. So I listened to the podcast and I was like, I need to find this bread to buy. I need to see if it's even good. And then a quick check, and I'm in Dallas. There was no place that you could buy bread from freshly milled flour. And I'm like, okay, well, I'm just going to jump in here. I got a mill and then I got a bread machine because for me, it had to be easy.
Yes.
Or else I wasn't going to do it. So did all that, got the grains, started making my bread, and it was good.
Yes.
It was really good.
It's delicious. You're like,
Yes.
yeah.
And I found, so I would have a piece of toast early in the morning, about 6 a.m., and then I'd get to the salon about noon. I brought in a toaster to my salon. So I would bring my bread to the salon. Yeah. So I brought my bread to the salon about 12:01. I would toast another piece. And usually I was working on a client, and it's kind of rude to eat in front of them without offering toast. So I would toast them a piece of bread as well. And they were like, oh my gosh, this is so good. And I'm like, I know, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So, and I found that having the toast at 6 and at like 12:01, it satiated me enough to not make poor decisions. So if I did anything else in this freshly milled wheat journey, was I stopped eating any fast food because I was satiated at the salon enough to drive home and then make a sensible dinner. So it was doing those two things. But I believe it's the bread. I struggled with constipation. Sorry, gross. But I thought it was normal to go like every 4 days. No.
No.
Yeah. After I listened to you, I was like, oh, you're supposed to go every day? Really?
Yeah.
So listen to the podcast. Me and my girlfriends, we started milling. We're doing this bread thing. I'm sharing the bread with my clients. And then I have my 6-month doctor's appointment. And I started milling in October of last year. My A1C went down to 6.
In just 6 months. So you started milling in October, but then 6 months later, you had your a follow-up doctor appointment.
Correct. Yeah.
Wow.
And I went from a size 2X to 12-14, which was 37 pounds.
In 6 months.
Yeah, which I didn't really even realize I was losing weight. Until like certain necklaces started fitting better. And I was like, oh, well, let me get on the scale. And I was like, oh my gosh. And then when I went to the doctors, that was confirmed. I was like, wow, that weight loss was enjoyable. And I wasn't exercising. I was just eating the bread and not eating fast food. That's it.
That's amazing. Wow.
And I've gone from a person that didn't store food as a single woman, I would just buy weekly what I needed, to having buckets of grain in my house now.
That's funny. That's like me. I'm like, when we first started, I'm like, I'm a prepper. What happened?
I know. I'm like, what? But it's amazing to me that there is so much variety in wheat berries, and they all have their little idiosyncrasies and tastes. And it's become fun.
Yes, that's what, I mean, you've said so many things already, that the bread's delicious. So it's not like, oh gosh, I got to choke this healthy food down. It's delicious and everybody loves it. And then you're full and you're satisfied. So that's just amazing, that just that little aspect alone made you satisfied. You quit having to go get fast food while you were working. And golly, look what happened in 6 months, 37 pounds, and your A1C came down to 6.
Yeah, it's amazing. I tell you, when I was listening to your podcast, a client of mine during that week, he put on this Netflix show. It was called Living to 100 Secrets of the Blue Zones. And whatever, she's listening to it. But what stood out to me, all these pockets of people in the world that consistently live to 100, they are grinding and milling their own wheat.
Yes.
And I swear, I felt it was a God thing. I felt God tapping on my shoulder saying, pay attention. This is important. And then I just jumped in whole hog. So I love it. It's easy. It's not hard. Like, I can mill my wheat and load my bread machine in under 5 minutes, and 3 hours later I have bread. Yeah. And then I do the cookies and the cakes, and I'm still diabetic, so I have to be careful with that. But I bake something every week, and if it's cookies, I'll bring the rest to the salon. So I don't feel like I'm missing out. Like I still get my sweet treats.
But if you're like me, what I found when I do want a little sweet treat, it's very rare also because the bread satisfies. But I also find that if I do want a sweet treat and I make something with the freshly milled flour, that I don't need a lot, just one or two, like you're
Right.
the rest of your cookies. Yeah.
Correct. Yeah. And I noticed that my sugar cravings have calmed a lot down.
Mm-hmm.
I have them from time to time, but not like it was before.
Yeah.
You know.
That's what I found too. So, gosh, your constipation's gone, significant weight loss. You've gotten off of diabetic meds and blood pressure meds.
Yes.
That is amazing. And your A1C is pretty normal.
It's pretty normal. So, and I'm excited to see what the next 6 months bring. So I went from 200 down to 163. And I'm like, holy cow, what am I going to be in the next 6 months?
That is amazing. That is amazing. And you said all without exercising and all of that. But now you probably have more energy. You're ready to walk and maybe, yeah.
I do. It's Texas, so it's been really, really sweltering hot. Now the temp's coming down, and I have 3 little weenie dogs, so they've been getting out and going on walks now. So yes, the exercise part is changing. So I expect my weight loss to ramp up.
Yes. You know, as soon as you posted on Facebook, it was so funny. Someone immediately asked, how much bread do you eat? Which is a question I get asked all the time. In fact, I just did a podcast on how much bread do you need to eat? So basically, you ate a couple of slices in the morning, couple of slices in the afternoon. Did you eat bread with your dinner at night or?
No, yeah, no, it's hard for me. I'm single, so for me to make dinner rolls, they just kind of go to waste. But I would have like a half a slice of bread with my meal. So I would say 3 times a day. And my bread machine makes these huge slices. So usually at dinner, it was like half a slice.
Right.
Yeah. And then whatever treat I had baked, if I baked cookies or bread or whatever, that would be later on in the evening.
Yeah. So probably 3-4 slices, servings a day. Yeah. And that's what I find. I find better to eat it, several times a day instead of just one big piece in the morning or something like that. So anyway.
And I'll say this. I have these 3 weenie dogs and they love the bread. They love the bread. And I'm like, okay, if you like the bread, let me see if you like the wheat. So I'll make like cream of wheat. And they love it. I mix it in with their dog food. So my dogs are on freshly milled wheat now too. I mean, not primarily, but they get it every day.
Yeah. I don't know if you heard the podcast, the lady shared about her little Yorkie that had the black drainage, which is very typical in that breed.
Yes.
And she started giving him the bread and it all cleared up. And it was so it's good pet food too. So
it's funny, my dogs, if I were to try and give them a piece of like store-bought bread, they like turn their heads away and no, they would not touch it. But this, they love it. So I'm like, okay.
Yeah. And that's one thing I noticed. Do you find that store-bought bread smells weird? It smells like chemicals. It's really odd to me. I don't know.
Since I've started this, I haven't purchased any bread product from a store or eat in a restaurant.
Great.
I consider it poison now. And I consider my freshly milled wheat, I consider that medication now.
Yes. That's something that I've noticed and I speak about a little bit in that, how much bread do you eat? Because when they see someone or hear of someone like you that has had so many health benefits in a short amount of time, that's all you changed with your bread. They immediately, how much bread do you need to eat? But I think there's 2 keys there. Yes, eat the bread throughout the day, but also not eating the fast food, the commercially processed breads, getting that out. is a big difference. It's a big
Yes.
maker. Yeah.
I know we in the milling community call that dead bread.
Yep. That's what we
And
call it.
really it is.
Yes. Yes. We call it that as well. You mentioned that you're a hairdresser and you take your bread to work and toast it right there in the shop and even share it with others. I bet your customers love it when you do that.
You know, since I've been doing this, I've gotten 15 people now to buy mills, buy grain, and they're making their bread as well.
Oh my goodness. Just
It's
sharing it.
crazy. Yeah, it's crazy. Because, you know, they have this piece of toast while their hair is processing or whatever. And they're like, oh my gosh, this is good. And I tell them what's in it. You know, go through every ingredient like it's real food, no preservatives. It molds in 5 days, like it's real. And this is probably the bread that Jesus ate. You know?
And compared himself to, for sure.
Yes, yes. So usually I will toast somebody a piece of bread, and then the next day I'll get a text saying, wow, that bread really got things moving.
Oh, just the one piece of bread.
Yes. Wow. And then they're like, okay, what do I need to start doing this? And I'll send them links everywhere, and
that's amazing.
They buy it. So it's
amazing.
pretty cool.
Wow. So working full time, are there any tips you would share about incorporating bread making into your busy lifestyle? I know you mentioned the mill and the bread machine. The bread machine makes it very doable for you, right?
Oh, very doable. I don't get joy from kneading bread. Now my friend Anna, she went all in. She got the Ankrusham, and she makes all the baked goods in her family, like hamburger buns and hot dog buns, and she makes it all. I can I can manage to do bread and like cookies a week.
Yeah.
You know. But no, again, if this was hard, I probably wouldn't have done it, but it's not. It's easy.
Yeah.
And I could fit it into my life really well. So.
Right. And I mean, you maybe would have been not as inspired to start if it had been so hard. But now that you've seen the health benefits, that's what I tell people. I said, if I have to grind my grain by hand with it, I would do it now. Knowing what it is and what it does, I would make a way. But there's so many. I love the Wonder Mill. I love the Zoharushi Virtuoso bread machine. The Ankrusham, of course, for my big family was a real godsend. But Brad and I, my husband and I, are now empty nesters, so I use the bread machine a lot. And you're right; it's just throw it in there, and it is nice. I sometimes bake my loaf of bread in there, but even if I just knead my dough, it's just so 5 minutes. Put the ingredients in, come back to dough, take it out, make some hamburger buns or dinner rolls or cinnamon bread or even donuts.
Yes,
So,
yes.
Yeah. But is there anything else? I just want to thank you for joining me today on your day off. I know Mondays is your day off, but are there any final words of encouragement you would like to leave with our listeners today?
Gosh, if I could encourage anybody who's on the fence of doing this, just start. It's so interesting in our world. We're told that gluten is bad, bread is bad. And so we all stay away from it. Oh, it's bad. And I have not experienced that. And I will tell you an interesting story. My neighbor who lives behind me, breast cancer survivor, just finished radiation, and is finding food hard to eat. I baked her a loaf of my bread at Christmas, and she texted me. She's like, oh my gosh, this is the only thing I can eat that doesn't make me sick. So every week I've been making her a loaf of bread, and she's been great. And she's like, I can eat this bread. But then I texted her one day and I said, hey, do you need a loaf of bread? And she's like, no, my doctor told me to stay away from gluten. And I was like, oh my gosh, seriously?
Oh, so break your heart.
It did break my heart because, of course she's going to believe what the doctor says. And I feel so bad for her because she was so, so thrilled to have bread and have it taste good. And I would bake, whenever I bake treats, I would put some over the fence for her, and all that has stopped for her. And I just can't imagine my world without bread now.
I know, because, you mentioned, you went keto and they told you quit eating bread and quit eating bananas, and you went keto, but you didn't really see a change until
I didn't.
you added the real whole grains. And I get it why people tell people to stop eating bread, and because of the bread in the store. It's not
Exactly
what you want to be eating, but the real bread that Jesus compared himself to is just amazing. So I just want to echo your comments. Just do it.
Just start.
And
Just
it's
start.
amazing. Yeah, it's amazing. And I get a lot of questions. Sometimes people will say, do you think it'll help with this or that or whatever? And I'm like, I don't know, but this is what I do know. You will feel better no matter what. You will feel better and you won't be constipated. So
I was just thinking, just pooping once a day makes me happy.
Yes. Yes.
Sorry, that's gross, but
no. Hey, listen, you're talking to the person that my kids call my talk, the poopy talk.
The poopy talk.
Yes. So, Marie, golly, just thank you again for sharing your It's the Bread story with everyone that's listening today. It's truly amazing, and I know will be an encouragement to so many that are listening. So, thank you.
Thank you for putting out that video, because it changed my life, and through me, it's changing my client's life.
Yeah.
Which is so cool.
And that's what I just want to remind everyone listening today. Did you hear what Marie says? She's sharing this bread with other people, and they're finding health and happiness. So, as always, gosh, just thank you for sharing, Marie. As always, thank you for everyone listening today. And until next time, this is Sue Becker from Bread Beckers with Sue's Healthy Minutes.
Sue's Healthy Minutes podcast has been a presentation by the Bread Beckers Incorporated, located in Woodstock, Georgia. For more information, store hours, and learning opportunities, visit breadbeckers.com and follow us on Facebook and Instagram. Make sure to subscribe to this podcast and never miss an episode. Share this with 2 friends who would benefit from this information, and be sure to join us again next week for more of Sue's Healthy Minutes.